everyone, and welcome to Vital Wisdom with me, Dr. Eli Camp. I'm so glad you could be here today. And I have quite the episode lined up for you. You might want to have pen and paper so you can take some notes as we go along. The last episode, I talked about the different models of healthcare and how each has its own approach when there's a time and place to use each one. And even I even talked a little bit about how we can use both sides of medicine when needed. And before I jump right into today's topic, which is preventative medicine, I want to share a personal experience with you that I had recently. So, a couple of years ago, I found a little lump in my breast, and I jumped right on that from a vitalistic perspective. I was already living a pretty clean life, doing very healthful practices, and yet this little thing popped up. And, you know, I have lots of tools in my bag. We all do, vitalists and naturopathic doctors practicing from a vitalistic paradigm. We have lots of tools, or in other words, therapies that we can use to assist the body. And I employed all of them over a 2 year period and had definite moments when that little lump shrunk down to almost nothing, and then times when it would get big again. And I could totally correlate those to poor eating. I could correlate those to stress, to craziness in life happening. And I knew that, but life happens, right? We're not always on smooth seas sailing along with no disturbances. And I started to move down and grow into my nipple area. And after 2 years of doing this, I decided to just simply have it taken out. And so I turned to the reductionist to health model to cut it out. And I'll continue to do all of the really good things I've been doing for my body. And, I have no doubt that everything's going to resolve and things will go along just great. And I was able to use some of my therapies through that process, like homeopathy and herbs. And I did some compresses and packs and hydrotherapy. And my body fared very well through surgery, and the healing has been amazing. And so that's just a quick example based on what I talked about last time of where we can utilize the best parts of both sides of medicine and everything in between. So thanks to everyone who sent prayers and good wishes along, but I'm doing great. So today's show, I want to talk about preventative health. There are a lot of things out there, lots of information about, what are the foundational practices for preventative health and how can people shift from a reactive, like I'm sick and now what do I need to do, to a proactive approach, one in which you get your body healthy and you don't have to really delve into that sort of reactive, what do I do now situation. I'll mention a little bit about, it being more cost effective, things like that. And before we talk about some of those points specifically, I think it's really important to establish the definition, meaning of health. And I can use an old definition from the World Health Organization, and I have my own issues with the World Health Organization, but sometimes I think they get things right. And their definition is this: a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. That's really important. That part of that definition is that health is so much more than merely a lack of illness and symptoms. It's, in essence, a holistic sense of well-being. And I think when we're talking about preventative health or treating an illness in the body, it's important to remember that from the vitalistic perspective, we're always addressing the root cause of illness rather than merely addressing the symptoms. We use the symptoms to help direct us to what needs to be addressed within the body. And you probably get a sense of this. You probably know this, but I'm just going to say this. Each person's state of health is as unique as their fingerprint. And it can be a combination of many things, including genetics, lifestyle, environment, financial resources, because financial stress, let me tell you, it's a killer. Their personality, the way they think, and lots of other factors. So, all of these elements come together for each person to create their picture of health, of optimal health, and of illness. And just as an example, let's take three people who suffer from headaches. If I give those patients the same treatment, aspirin, let's say it's aspirin, it will affect their symptoms. I'm careful not to use the word necessarily treat, because in my world, treat means resolving underlying issues, but it will deal with the symptoms. But more than likely, all those headaches will return for all those people until the cause of the headaches is discovered and dealt with. For one person, it could be dehydration and mineral deficiencies, or for another person, it could be food sensitivities and an ongoing consumption, right, of those foods that cause an inflammatory response within their body. The third person, it could be stress and muscular tension. So while that aspirin for all three people might reduce the symptoms temporarily, it doesn't address the cause or the reason why the headaches are there, the reason why the body's telling us something's wrong. But once we discover the root cause, a treatment plan can help restore those people's bodies back to health. And so I think of health as a journey, not so much a destination, a journey. And it requires us to examine our lives, to be conscious of how we're interacting, not only with our body, but with things out there, and to make changes accordingly. And in this way, health becomes a process and a lifestyle. And preventative health could not uh, fit this definition better, right? To make it a lifestyle, one has to be aware of their current state of health. Not everybody is starting with a clean slate and no symptoms and just preventing illness. No, very, very few of us. Maybe if you're a newborn. And that depends on what you've done with the newborn up to a certain point in time. Because these days, illness and disease can be set into motion very early in a young person's life. But we have to start where we're at. And I just want to say this at the beginning, and I'll try and remember to say it at the end. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's never too late to start engaging in preventative health practices, in making different choices, even if it's one different choice a day that helps you end the day more healthful than you began. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 5 or 20 or 40 or 75. It doesn't matter if you're already in your own optimal state of health or if you are suffering with lots of different symptoms, right? It's never too late to start. Many of my mentors through the years have said things like this. Every choice we make in a day either creates a more healthful state or a state that lends itself more towards illness and disease. Every decision we make every day, when it comes to what we do, what we think, what we eat, how we act, it either creates healthfulness or sets us down the path of illness. And this is an important thing to remember. You can't be perfect. You cannot make these decisions, all of them every day perfectly. And you don't have to. It is simply about being aware. So know how your body's functioning, be aware of what's going into your body, be aware of what your unique needs are in order for your body to feel good. It also means being aware of how we feel What is the state of our physical, mental, and social well-being? So there's lots to take stock of. And it's a great exercise to start your preventative health journey with some journal entries of taking assessment of where you're at and where you'd like to be. Along our journey of achieving optimal health or preventative health, right? Along that journey, there are many things we can do ourselves at home for free, for minimal cost. It takes time investment and it takes conscious thinking investment. For example, nursing a cold with bed rest and warm liquids and vitamins and herbs, things like that. Sometimes folks will turn to self-treating, take their health into their own hands when they're dissatisfied with the level of care that they receive from a doctor. But it's important to know when guided care from a qualified health professional is necessary. And what I want to quickly do is remind you of all the different kinds of health professionals that are out there. You have the power to build a team of people that will help you on this journey. Turning to a single person to provide you with all of your total health care is a little bit like asking your plumber if he can fix your sink and then rewire your house, fix the heat, tune up your car, right? Check your foundations. Like, we might not realize how we have these sort of, unrealistic expectations from someone who's serving as our doctor or other healthcare practitioner. And so one of the best things you can do for yourself on this journey of preventative health is build a team of people that you keep on hand and involved in your life and your health that can help you keep all the different parts of yourself running smoothly. And again, you need to identify your unique needs, addressing mind, body, and spirit, and even identify the health goals that you have, and then perhaps go looking. So there's all different kinds of folks. There's medical doctors, osteopathic doctors, naturopathic doctors, doctors of Oriental medicine, and hopefully I got the big groups there. But you might also want to consider working with a nutritionist, a holistic nutritionist, or a physical trainer. You might want to consider working with a homeopath or an herbalist, in addition to your main sort of doctor person. Once you've reached your level of optimal health, you probably won't spend very much time with any of these people, especially if you're already fairly healthy and you're just trying to fine tune things a little bit. Then you just need a little input from the people best trained in the area that you need help with. And this will really carry you very far down along your path. You want to make sure whoever you bring on your healthcare team has the proper credentials. For example, you want to make sure that the person you're enlisting as your nutritionist has the proper training and credentials to serve in that capacity. Most healthcare professionals have some sort of credentialing process with national organizations to make sure that they maintain professional integrity, set standards, do continuing education. So if you're unfamiliar with a profession, do a little bit of research to ensure that you are bringing somebody on board that's qualified and can help you. And perhaps one of the most important things I think when you're putting together a team of people like this is to make sure you have a good relationship with them, a good rapport. You like them. You need to find someone that you trust. And sometimes folks stay with providers that they're unhappy with because they feel like they don't have any other options. And that's not true. You always have a choice, especially today in 2024, when we have so many options for virtual health. So who might you consider? Any one of those doctors. Now, medical, osteopathic, naturopathic, Oriental medicine. Within those four primary care physician categories will be people that address health from the vitalistic or from the allopathic, and some with a blend of both. They attempt to blend both. So Just because they have a letters after their name, doesn't mean by default that they are practicing the kind of medicine that resonates with you. And if you've been listening to my shows and a vitalistic approach is important to you, meaning someone who understands the body can heal itself, they know what it needs, they know how to stop poisoning it, and they know how to stimulate the healing ability. If that's important to you, then that's the doctor that you need to find, regardless of the initials after their name. Many naturopathic doctors are trained in this way. Osteopathic doctors used to be trained in this way. Anyway, so find your primary care person. That's number one. Other folks to consider are registered nurse practitioners or a registered nurse that has completed additional educational training and has done that within the holistic field. Chiropractic medicine, right? Having a chiropractor on board gives you an opportunity. So let me back up a minute. Many naturopathic doctors are trained in physical medicine, and they can do things similar to what a chiropractic physician can do. But if you cannot find a naturopathic doctor that you want to work with, and you want to work with some other type of primary care health practitioner, then finding a chiropractic physician who's also holistic. The chiropractors have this same divide within their profession. So you want a chiropractor that understands the body can heal itself and they know what to do to help the body get to a place where it can do that. They're a great physical medicine specialist to have on your team. Certified clinical nutritionist or registered licensed dietitian who has had holistic training, they can really help you understand the food and what you need and how to put meal plans together and how to substitute foods. They are invaluable. And I have several that I refer my patients to. Not that I cannot do that with my patients, I can, but it takes a lot of time and it takes an expertise that I really like to turn to someone who focuses on food. Like that is their main focus in how they practice medicine. Homeopathy, so having a homeopath on board, perhaps your primary care doctor has a specialty in homeopathy. So if they do, you've got that covered. But if not, a homeopath can be an extraordinary person to have on board your healthcare team. Homeopathy can do things other tools of medicine cannot do. And I have been doing this for a long time. And I have seen where folks have struggled until they've brought homeopathy on board and then seeing things really resolve in a way that's just wonderful and in harmony with the body. Naturopathic doctors receive a lot of training in homeopathy. There is the American Board of Homeopathy, which carries a list of folks trained in classical homeopathy. In this case, I would just say be sure that your primary care provider is open to you bringing this on board in your daily life and is willing to work with a homeopath. Traditional Chinese medicine is the primary healthcare system in the People's Republic of China. However, it has spread all over the world. It's called TCM, and TCM practitioners are do this very similar things to what a vitalist does. They seek to restore harmony to the body by balancing two forces called yin and yang, and they are always looking at that vital force within people. They call it qi, and to keep it flowing and balanced and stimulating or calming it down. They can use herbs and acupuncture and cupping and all different sorts of stuff. And in many parts of the world, a TCM practitioner is the primary care provider. I mentioned physical trainers who can help you get the most out of the physical movements of your body. Physical therapists can help restore and rehabilitate, and they have holistic physical therapists, just like they have holistic practitioners in all of these fields. Other people you might want to consider adding could be medical specialists, because you are already in a place where you have symptoms of illness and you need someone with a little bit of extra expertise in some areas, like an endocrinologist if you have diabetes, or maybe an OB/GYN or midwife, right? If you are pregnant things like that. Licensed massage therapists can be just a wonderful, wonderful member of your team. They can provide both stress relieving and medical massage uh, therapies. And, massage does more than just rub your muscles and make them feel better. They can help stimulate the lymphatic system, encourage the body to release toxins stored in muscle tissue. They can relax muscle tension. They can work with your fascia. People who do body work in this way, massage therapists, and other folks related to massage therapy are amazing. Maybe you want to find a holistic dentist, a holistic eye doctor, and it might even, depending on your particular situation, if you struggle with mental, emotional health, perhaps you find a holistic counselor or other type of therapist. It might be a psychologist, it might be a psychotherapist, and I have known many of them who do not just take their script pad to write for, mood adjusters. There are many people in these fields who are, I would call them vitalistic, right? They're going to help you figure out if it's food or lifestyle or other things. There's a lot of other different kinds of therapy that I support, and I have seen work for people in amazing ways, like music therapy, art therapy, writing therapy, work with animals, and support groups. Support groups, if you're struggling with something in particular, finding a support group that focuses on what you are struggling with, whether it could perhaps be addiction, or if you're a single parent or single caregiver, or support groups for folks who suffer from the symptoms of particular illness. You can search around and find one that you resonate with that can be very beneficial for folks. Life coaching is a pretty new field, life coaching, health coaching, but many of these folks have really good training, and it's not that they're treating you. They're sort of your partner as you walk along, someone you can call up and say, man, I just don't know what I'm going to do about this or that, or how to handle this particular obstacle. And life coaches and health coaches can help you through that. If you are connected with spirituality, having a spiritual advisor or leader on your team and someone who can help provide emotional support as well as spiritual counseling may be definitely someone to consider. So that was not a comprehensive list. Those were key areas that I have found over the last 20 years are practitioners and providers that have helped my patients engage in preventative health, restore a lifestyle, a way of thinking, a way of feeling that is health promoting rather than disease promoting. And it's not really just a disparate group of people that you go out and find and put together. Usually you want a synergistic team. And so having somebody who can be the central hub in all of that can be really helpful. Concierge doctors do that. I served in a concierge position for many of my patients for a long time, where I coordinate all members of their healthcare team for them, like making sure your primary care physician knows the workout routine that your physical trainer has put you on. This helps your physician, who has to manage your overall health picture with you, etc. Naturopaths in general make very good central hubs, right? They're specifically trained in this kind of team approach, and they have longer office visits that allow for more detailed appointments. They can counsel you on all of those different aspects, decide if there's a professional that you would benefit from working with to get even deeper, like with nutrition, like I do with my patients. The most important thing is all of these professionals need to know that they're part of a team, and that that's what you want, is a team approach. And because it's not really conventional, some professionals might not be comfortable with the idea that their patients are getting information from other sources. And so really want to put that team together carefully. Most of my folks take months to find the people after we go through and identify who they might most benefit from having on a team of folks to help them. And you might be thinking right now, does my insurance cover this? Well, I'll tell you that some of those practitioners are simply not covered by insurance. But if you are, unless you got your head in the sand, you realize the problem, at least within the United States, of the what seems to be the goal of insurance providers to deny as absolutely many claims as possible and not get practitioners paid. And people spend a lot of money every month for years and years and years just to find out that the things that they need, their insurance company isn't necessarily willing to pay for. It's a sad thing that's happening. And I'm not saying I'm for socialized or nationalized healthcare. I'm for the healthcare system actually being invested in elevating the health of every single citizen in the US. Well, everybody, right? There's people living here who aren't citizens, but I think that those companies, if they would make it more about restoring health, uh, they would come out better, and we certainly would too, as would our providers. So that's a team of people, and that's an important step when you're talking about preventative health. Having the people at your fingertips that you can ask questions of and who can guide you. Now, lots of folks, okay, right now I want to move on to the cornerstones. What do we need to focus on when we're talking about preventative health, when we are wherever we're at? So if you already have symptoms of illness, you can address all of these areas, because anything you do to create health within your body is going to kickstart that self-healing ability, and things will start to resolve over time. You might need some specific therapies, some specific substances, something specific to help you get over a particular obstacle. But always remember, your body has the ability to self-heal. And when it has what it needs to do that, and there are obstacles that have been removed that prevent it from doing that, and you're supporting your body's innate intelligence to self-heal, it will do exactly that, because that is how we're built. Just remember that as we talk about these cornerstones and these pillars. So I always like to start with the mind-body connection. And I know that may be a little woo-woo for some of you, but psychoneuroimmunology is a scientific investigation. Yes, there is evidence-based medicine happening here. Oh no, in vitalism. So it's an investigation of how the brain affects the body's immune cells and how the immune system can be affected by behavior and thoughts. We are what we think we are. We are experiencing what we think we're experiencing. We give meaning to everything that happens to us every day of our life, and we are in control of what that meaning is. So there's this field of science that studies the mind-body connection, and it seeks to investigate the relationship between psychosocial, the central nervous system, the immune system, and disease. And it is endorsed by the National Institutes of Health. Sometimes it's referred to as behavioral medicine. And what's the bottom line here? Research has clearly established that there are links between the mind and the body, how we think, how we feel, the perspective we have, and what happens in our body. I'm not saying you're sick because you think you're sick. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the way we think, the way we feel, what we think, how we train ourselves to think, has a direct impact on the physical body. Various physical illnesses can be aggravated or ameliorated, right, improved, based on the emotions of an individual. You can probably just take a beat and take a deep breath and think about times in your life when things have been stressful. The way you think, you can correlate to symptoms that have gotten worse or feel unbearable. And if you think about it, it is, no pun intended, but you can probably draw a connection between how you're thinking, the amount of stress you're under, how you're dealing with that, and how that manifests in your body. Just as an example, emotional stress can cause a flare-up of herpes. Emotional stress and negative self-talk can cause MS to flare. Feelings of frustration and conflict and being trapped somewhere can stimulate an asthma attack. It's very, very clear. The research has been done, and they're going to keep doing it, but it's very clear. There's other factors when it comes to the mind body health that can affect someone's individual life and experience of life and their physical health, like their personality type, early childhood experiences. I'm going to call this it's either traumatic or it's not. As a child, you either have a traumatic upbringing or it's pretty even keel. And we know now, and I'm sure we've known this for a long time, even if people wouldn't admit it, that children that experience trauma, and it can be many different things, they struggle with their health as adults. The quality of an individual's support system, right? That this is a factor. A type A personality, and I know there's all different kinds of personality tests now and different classifications. This is sort of an older classification, type A. So someone who is very rigid and controlling and needs their environment to be just so. They found that they're more likely to develop coronary or artery disease. It's interesting, right? Another study showed women who suppress anger, who have feelings of guilt over their anger, are at a greater risk for developing cancer. Isn't that interesting? Right? They hold it all inside, and now the physical body has to manifest that in some way. And it's a greater risk for cancer. Some studies have shown that humans have certain emotional needs that make up their sense of well being. We need a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives, a sense of connectedness and acceptance for others, which is often why people go with the crowd. We don't want to be ostracized from the others. We want to be accepted. We need a sense of empowerment and personal control over aspects of our lives, as well as a hope that the things that are not good have a chance to improve, whether that's where we live or the job we have or the physical health that we have. And all of these needs contribute to our physical health in some way. So there's a lot of different techniques that can help meet these needs. All of these suggestions have scientific data. Some of them need a little bit more study, but there's lots and lots of things that we can do mental, emotional health wise that are preventative and help us create emotional well-being and therefore contribute to better physical health. The first step, I'll go all the way back to earlier in this episode, you have to be aware of your physical health. And that means taking stock of things, developing an awareness of your needs, your innermost thoughts and feelings. And you could do a journal, you could build a social support group, etc. Another thing in the psychoneuroimmunology field is to acknowledge that there aren't any bad emotions. We just have to learn what to do with our emotions. And the other night I was speaking to a group of people and I referenced Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie. And I referenced Spock, who comes from the imaginative planet of Vulcan. And from a very young age in the storyline of Star Trek, Vulcans are taught to control their emotions. It's not that they can't have them, although in Star Trek, they portray Vulcans as being emotionless, and I would never suggest that. But the important takeaway from this sort of imaginary story of Star Trek is we have the ability to control our emotions, to channel them, to understand them, to do something with them. And so this takes me right to the point I want to make is to learn healthy expressions of anger. Anger isn't a bad emotion. We just need to understand it. So free-floating hostility, pessimism, judgment, all of these can lead to anger issues as well as suppressing and feeling guilt over one's anger. In my early childhood, which I would classify my childhood as traumatic, and I've healed from it and I've moved on. But one of the things that I learned in my early childhood was how to hate people, because this is the example I had in front of me, that when things didn't go the right way, there was no logical thinking or trying to sort out the emotion or figure out, what was going on. It was simply to decide to hate that person. And this is not a primary emotion, it's one that's learned, and it should be transient. All of the feelings that cause that the anger or hostility, we need to acknowledge them and then they move on. Because if we don't acknowledge them and deal with them, it turns inward and it can have a significant effect on our physical health. All of these things I'm telling you have studies, all of them. And emotionally, folks who were not taught to acknowledge and deal with any of their emotions really have developed greater instances of physical illness and higher mortality rates. Research has strongly established that humor and laughter are significantly increase the function of the immune system, they decrease stress hormones, and they provide both physical and emotional stress relief. Optimism versus pessimism. Optimism is an outlook on life that promotes health and enhances immune system function. Folks who were studied, who were shown to be optimists, were sick less often and for shorter duration with longer lifespans. Whereas the opposite was true for people who have a more pessimistic outlook on life. And there's even great studies showing that faith, spirituality, prayer, I'm going to boil this down with a sort of a personal twist here, a belief in something greater than yourself that involves some type of intelligent design, helps people cope with emotional stress, that gives you a sense of well-being and can help you recover from illness faster. So practicing forgiveness, gratitude, prayer, meditation, these are all powerful tools to help connect people with their own inner sense of spirituality. That was the first cornerstone, mental, emotional, mind-body connection. It is powerful, it's significant, and it needs to be part of your journey. Okay. Next along the path of preventative health, and remember, what are we doing? What are we doing with preventative health? We are trying to create a body that is able to self-heal. It's that simple. You want to create a body in which your own personal optimal health is achieved. You are your own best doctor. And what I'm giving you are the cornerstones, the key areas to focus on one step at a time, piece by piece. Don't try and do it all. It's overwhelming. Do not even think for a second it's too late. It's never too late. You can start today when you get done listening to this episode. Pick one of the areas that I've talked about and say, you know what, I'm going to work on this one thing today and make the end of the day more healthful than the day began. So nutrition is the next cornerstone. And nutrition is really just about the basic building blocks that are necessary for every physiological process in the human body. Food can be medicine, food can be poison. That's it. It's either helping you or it's hurting you. Now, there are some things out there like the Eat Right for Your Blood Type, where that Dr. Peter Diadamo says, well, food could be neutral. I respectfully disagree. I believe that what you consume either takes you in a direction of being more healthful, even if it's a millimeter, or it takes you in the direction of being less healthful. Food. We are creatures who have to consume some energy and some nutrients and our hydration. We have to fuel ourselves, like stopping at the gas station and putting gas in the car. This is what food is supposed to be for humans. Now, it serves other purposes as well, celebration, comfort. It's a powerful community builder. There's lots of other things that food does for us, other roles that it fills, functions. But the primary one is it fuels our body and allows our body to use what we put in it to heal, to function, to detoxify, right? To all those things that the human body is built to do. So we get energy, nutrients, hydration. It also supplies the body what we take in with vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, sugars, fats, all the tools that we need for every chemical reaction in the body. And depending on the quality of the food, it either maintains our health, moves us in a healthier direction, creates burdens on our system that lead to illness. And by mentioning nutrition, what I'm really emphasizing is the idea of using this one cornerstone of preventative health to achieve and maintain health through food. Now, we have to acknowledge in modern society we have a high toxic burden on our bodies due to environmental and food processing factors. And there's so many things out of control. We can't control some things, like the quality of the outdoor air that we breathe. And so, what we need to do is make choices where we have control to decrease the overall toxin load on our body and give the fuel that it needs. And so, choosing clean and healthy food is one place we can start or continue if we've already made that choice. Whole foods that are free of pesticides, environmental toxins, preservatives, artificial sweeteners, flavor enhancers, all that's poison. A whole foods diet simply means that food is as close to its natural form as possible. It has the least processing. Some foods need to be processed a little, right, to get to the nutrients more effectively. But the foods that have the least amount of processing and the least amount of chemical exposure due to additives and preservatives. A freshly washed apple that hasn't been covered in any peel or anything else is an example of a snack that's a good whole food choice rather than a fruit roll up. Applesauce, even if it's homemade, canned fruit cocktail would be my last choice of how to get any of these fruits. So whole foods support a healthy immune system. It helps maintain gut and intestinal health, and it decreases inflammation in the body. Wow, who knew that something like what we eat does all of that stuff in our body? Now, in modern life, I know eating a fresh whole foods diet can seem overwhelming. We've got hectic schedules and stress. It makes processed foods and fast foods a time efficient alternative. I get that. But you can do some meal planning. You can do some cooking once a week. There are a food prep once a week for the week to help decrease daily stress. And it helps you save money. It lets you do things as a unit, as a family unit or a group unit if you're working as a group. Making the plan for what's you're going to eat, finding recipes, make a shopping list, prepare the food. It can really help a lot to decrease stress, time stress. There's so many recipe books that offer simple, easy, and quick, healthy meal recipes. You can always cook larger portions at a time. So you have leftover soups, stews, casseroles, vegetables. You can freeze these into individual portions and have homemade frozen dinners when life gets too hectic to cook. You want to keep healthy snacks on hand. So in our house, I don't want my kids eating chips and cookies. Not that having chips once in a while is a bad thing, or having some homemade chocolate chip cookies. My daughter makes the best homemade chocolate chip cookies. And it's not that you can't ever have this stuff. But what do I leave out for them to walk by and pick a handful up? So when you have teenagers, you probably realize they eat constantly. Like they've got like a black hole in the middle of their body. You can't fill it up. And so what do? Well, I leave out fresh fruit that's cut up and easy, like oranges and apples. I cut up veggies and make a homemade ranch dip that's really healthy, or avocado dip, and that they just walk by, they grab a handful of veggies, and that's what they eat. I leave out crackers, homemade crackers. I leave out hummus, corn chips, dried beans like that have been puffed, granola, nuts. This is the stuff that I leave out because this is what I want them to eat. And they do eat it instead of all the sugary, processed, yucky foods. So making these changes is a challenge. It is. It's something that can take my patients months to year or more to really fine tune and get their handle on their nutrition. And that's okay, because remember, every day you can do one thing. So make one change in your nutritional plan. Start slow. Try replacing at least one meal per week with a whole foods diet. Work up to one meal per day. And then, this isn't a special diet that you're on. It's a new way of of living. It's a new way of eating. It's a way of creating a different relationship with food. And every time you eat something that you know is healthful and takes you more in the direction of health, celebrate that for yourself. And when you've done something that you know does not do that, don't beat yourself up. Just don't do it tomorrow, right? It's that easy. Healthy eating is about switching from toxic laden processed foods to natural, healthy, fresh foods. That is the goal. All right. So, since we're talking about food, this always comes up in every relationship I have with patients and in every talk I give. Do I really need to buy everything organic? So, what is organic? Organic is a term that means different things in different countries. Basically, it means that food and livestock are grown according to a specific set of criteria that limit the amount of organophosphates, antibiotics, and growth hormone in food production. It generally prohibits genetic modification of food. So the term organic can be applied to more than just food items, right? Health and beauty products can also contain toxins as part of their ingredients, either through chemical additives or the use of botanicals that have been chemically treated. And remember, your skin is your largest organ of your body for detoxification. And studies have shown that you can absorb toxins through your skin. So, rightfully so, people are concerned about the price of organic foods. But here's what I tell everyone: not everything has to be purchased organic. So, if you carefully choose what you purchase organic, you can reduce your toxin load by over 90%. And so there are items, food and non-perishables, that should be purchased organically because of the very high likelihood that they contain toxins. Other foods are less toxic, or they have a natural barrier to pests and disease, and so they're not necessarily treated. Don't just spend the extra money to buy organic. So in general, uh, because living organisms accumulate and store toxins, even humans do this through their life, meat and meat products should be organic. And if you're talking about livestock, it should be free ranging. And this includes eggs and dairy since they come from animals. Fruits and veggies, we'll talk more about in a minute. There is this group, write this down, the Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. They do a lot of work. They are not bought and paid for by any industry. They're independent. And every year they identify the 12 fruits and veggies that contain the most toxins. And by buying those organic, you can really cut down on your toxins a lot. It depends on what year it is, but it's often strawberries, apples, nectarines, peaches that are considered the most toxic and should be purchased organic. I always buy my apples organic. If you eat the dirty dozen, which the EWG produces, you are exposing yourself to almost 20 pesticides per day on average. This is not preventative health. This is not health inducing. This is disease inducing. So many of them have the contamination on the inside. So washing does not remove the pesticide. So if you're going to eat items on their dirty dozen list, get them organic. They also make a list of the 12 least contaminated that you don't have to. Actually, I think nowadays it's the clean 15. You don't have to worry about getting those organic. They do a lot of stuff other than just food, fruits and veggies. Check out their website. It's very good. And no, I don't get paid to promote them. Okay, that was food with a little touch on organic food. I want to mention water. So water is the body's most basic and fundamental chemical component. I'm going to do a whole talk on water. So what I just want to say is drink clean water. Make sure that you stay hydrated. Dehydration can absolutely contribute to illness and not being in your state of optimal health. And it is, we have to have it. We are of the water. We are mostly water. And so I do not drink water out of plastic bottles. I have a water filter. I have glass and stainless steel drinking containers. It's what I ask all of my patients to use. I ask them to take in about half their body weight in ounces of water, depending on who they are. My athletes have to drink more. My very sedentary people don't have to drink as much. I ask them to replace almost everything they're drinking with either well, mostly water, but also naturally caffeine-free herbal teas, which also have some medicinal benefit depending on the herbs that they're drinking. Um, I understand folks like a hot cup of tea or a hot cup of coffee. So I ask them to limit that to one a day. The easiest way to get the water you need is to carry a water bottle. They sell water bottles with filters on them in case you don't have access to good clean water. And I always add trace minerals into the water. And we'll talk about that another time. But trace minerals are missing in the soils. We need trace minerals in our body. They create health, and we can add them back in. Okay, that's food. That's organic food. That's hydrating. Sleep. Sleep is essential for a healthy body. And what are we talking about as a reminder? Preventative health practices. We can either be creating health or creating illness. And I'm going over the key areas that create a healthier body. So, sleep, it's essential. It might seem like nothing really happens while we're sleeping. We sort of close our eyes. If we're sleeping well, we then all of a sudden wake up and we feel good and refreshed. But the reality is that our brains are really active during sleep. We go through different sleep cycles, including REM, which I'm sure you've heard about, but others. During sleep, human growth hormone is released in teens, young adults, and cells rejuvenate and grow. Brainwave activity suggests that when we sleep, our brain is encoding memories and recovering from emotional stress. And sleep deprivation studies show a breakdown in the immune system when we're not getting that good full night's sleep, disruptions in the nervous system, loss of memory and motor skills. Research shows that sleep related problems play a role in many different illnesses like flu and uh, 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 pain throughout the body in the muscles and in the joints and poor cognitive function. Many different areas of our health are affected by how well we sleep. Regardless of the relationship between how well we sleep and our physical body, there's enough research that's been done over enough time to show that good quality restful sleep is essential for a healthy mind and a healthy body. Our sleep needs change throughout our life. It's 9 to 10 hours for teenagers, 7 to 8 hours for adults, although I like all of my folks to get 10 hours of sleep if they can. Now, that might be an hour moving into sleep and an hour waking up with 8 hours in between where they're actually sleeping. Because some folks, their minds are super active. And when we lay down to go to sleep or when we first wake up, it's a time of the day when we're doing things in our mind, we're thinking about things. And what really I've seen is that if they take 8 hours and try and do that, they're only getting 6 hours of sleep because it doesn't mean that they just lay down and fall right to sleep. So I like folks to allot a full 10 hours to the whole sleep process and the whole sleep cycle. If you're under a lot of stress or your physical body is needing healing, you might need more sleep than that. In fact, you probably do. So it's just really staying in tune with your own body's needs, what's happening. If you're not sleeping well, you can think about getting a sleep study. There's things that keep people from sleeping, like restless leg syndrome. There are reasons why people do not necessarily sleep as well as they could. And what I'm asking you to do is identify if that's true for you, you're not sleeping the way you should, and work with someone to get it figured out. Just some basics that if you are having trouble sleeping, some basics to think about that you could put into action today is what's the temperature in your room? What is your most comfortable temperature? Extreme temperatures of heat or cold can keep people from sleeping deeply. Your body loses its ability to completely control its body temperature during REM. So if you've got extremes in the room where you're sleeping, it can wake you up. There's a lot of other things. So don't have any electronics in your room. You want it dark, you want it quiet. I know a lot of folks who say, I can't sleep without a noise machine. That tells me that their brain's going, that they aren't able to shut their brain down and make it quiet before they go to sleep. So they use something outside of the body to do that. I would work with someone to figure out why you cannot quiet your brain down. But sleep is a cornerstone. Now, what about We're going to move on to supplements because everybody that comes in to see me, everybody I work with, folks I talk to in the line of the bank, they all want to know what supplements they should be on. And so I always say, well, first, we want to create a body through the basics of food and exercise and sleep and hydration, minerals, giving the body what it needs so that it can start to self heal. But there are folks, and there are times I do this, where adding some supplements in are important for a variety of reasons. Trace minerals are one of them. It's a supplement I ask everybody to take because the soil is deficient in those trace minerals in most parts of our country. So supplements being vitamins, minerals, herbs that promote health by providing nutritional support and assistance to the body for it to do what it was designed to do. From a naturopathic perspective, particularly a vitalistic perspective, I see each person has a different supplementation need based on a lot of different factors: their diet, their lifestyle, their genetics, their sleep, their individualized state of health. And, I think it's always a good idea to know what food sensitivities you have. I like whole food based vitamins. I like good quality essential fatty acids like fish oil or some other type of essential fatty acid. I think that many people in the United States and in many parts of the world are eating their fair share of nutrient depleted foods, especially processed foods. There's nothing in there for us. They may add things in, but it's not the full complement that Whole Foods gives us. They lack significant nutrition. Many studies are being done right now about over farming and monocrop agriculture and practices in the farming community that are stripping nutrients from the soil. And so we have to put those back in a different way. Our body needs more nutrients to cope with our stressful modern lifestyle. It's just the way it is. We get lots of omega-6, not necessarily lots of omega-3 fatty acids. So we want to make sure that we balance that out. And they do a lot of things in the body. And I'm not going into these individual things today because they deserve their own hour of a topic. But some of the most common deficiencies in Americans are B vitamins, magnesium, both of which have been shown to support the body's physical and mental processes. Quality is a really big deal. These companies that make supplements, most of them, not all, most of them are in it just for the bottom line. And so they are going to make them with the cheapest ingredients. So the profit margin is at its greatest. This is a place where if you work with a naturopathic doctor or other holistic practitioner for no other reason other than to get guidance on which supplements to get, I'm telling you, it makes a difference. And, they use the cheap forms that aren't as well absorbed. I mean, you're wasting your money, or you could even be doing damage. So most practitioners are trained really well to know what a good quality is, and they can guide you in that way. You also have to be careful if you're doing fish oil, because our heavy metals and our ocean pollution are out of control right now. There are really good groups trying to clean it up, but we want to make sure that we're not getting too much mercury or dioxins. The Environmental Defense Fund conducted a study on, I think it was over 75 brands of fish oil to determine what is the safest. So definitely when you get to your fatty acids, if you're going to do fish oil, get one that is filtered and cleaned and tested. Okay, I know this is a lot. This is a little bit longer of a show, but I really want to go over these things with you, because this is in its accumulative knowledge collection here this is preventative health, right? So all of those things were on to exercise. The human body was built to move. We were built to move. I'm going to say it one more time. The human body was built to move. We're not moving our bodies. Most of the folks I meet when I first start working with them, not that I don't work with athletes or I don't work with people who are actively trying to move their body, but many are not. And we must move our body. We call it exercise our body. I think of it simply as move the body. It increases our pulse. It engages our cardiovascular system. It strengthens our muscles. It helps us detox. It helps us eliminate, things through our bowel. It stimulates various brain chemicals that can increase our mood. Regular exercise helps prevent and manage high blood pressure. It helps us manage cholesterol. It helps prevent type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, and many types of cancer. Regular movement helps us burn calories. It assists with our metabolism. It is so good for us. It helps us fall asleep faster, can deepen our sleep. Some individuals like exercising in the morning, some like to do it at night. You have to find the time. Now, does this mean that you've got to just go join a gym? No. No, because most folks I know that just go join a gym don't necessarily stick with it. Find ways to move in your daily life that you enjoy. Dance around the house or the apartment or wherever you live with music on. Maybe sign up for free classes in the community like cycling or aerobics or kickboxing. Take some dancing lessons. Maybe walk, right? Just walk. Get out there, take a walk, explore your neighborhood, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Even if you take the one floor of stairs and the elevator the rest of the way, pretty soon you'll be doing 2 floors of the stairs, and then pretty soon you'll be running up the stairs. Get a jump rope, which costs $1 at the dollar store. Get a little trampoline. Draw hopscotch on the sidewalk and do hopscotch. Get a hula hoop. Swimming is such a great way to move your body. Maybe take up belly dancing, or there's yoga or Tai Chi. Okay, what am I just trying to say to you is you have to move your body. And what I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to say you need to get 30 minutes of exercise in every day, because that may not be good for some people. Some people might need way more. Some people might not be able to do that to start out with. Move your body in any way you can possibly think about moving it, because it will help you improve your health. You will be more healthful at the end of the day than in the beginning. Now, always check with your doctor before you start any kind of significant increase in movement. Make sure that if you're on some type of medication that makes you unsteady on your feet, that you have a buddy there. You have to be smart about it. But however you have to do it, work with your people, figure out how to move your body. And you should be moving your body hours every day. Every day. If you have a desk job, get up and stretch every hour for 5 minutes. Learn isometric movements where you tighten your muscles and you release them. Like, figure it out, because moving is one of the most important cornerstones. I mean, they're all important, but this is really important. Okay, stress. You've got to learn to deal with stress. If you're not talking about how you feel, if you are thinking about things that you're worried about constantly and not problem solving them, if you've in a situation where you've always got potential physical damage or danger to you, we have this mechanism in our body. It's the fight or flight, right? And that saved us before we lived in cities and communities. That ability to flee from danger, the whole chemical process and all of that, it saved us as humans. But what we were not designed to do is deal with these levels of stress every day, all day, ongoing. That is a killer for your body. That and trauma and all these things I've mentioned. If you don't deal with stress, you are creating illness in your body. So the stress can increase our heart rate. It makes us take short, shallow breaths. We do not release our neurotransmitters and hormones properly, or they get routed to different things in the body. It can lead to a lot of physical ailments like headache, back and chest pain, heart disease, high blood pressure, decreased immunity, stomach upset, sleep problems, cancer, irritability, restlessness, depression, burnout. Like, stress is a killer. And there's a lot of strategies that can help you manage stress. A few are meditation, breathing exercises, visualization and guided imagery, exercise, time management, prayer, other spiritual activities, support groups. Like, I could do journaling, doing enjoyable activities and hobbies. I could go on and on and on about all of the different ways that you can manage your stress. Well, the point I would like to make is imperative that if you experience stress every day, that you learn how to manage it and what to do with it. Now, we have a lot of, I mentioned we have a lot of toxins around us. Environmental medicine focuses on the increase of toxins in our modern world, from, molecules of stuff to the electromagnetic and radiation waves. And the world, and some folks would say, the world's always been toxic, and maybe, but it's particularly toxic in this era. And one of the most pervasive ones is organophosphate pesticides, which not only get right on the food, but they get in the air, they get in the water supply, and they're chemically related to the nerve gases that they used in World War II. And there's a lot of debate about whether these are causing birth defects and cancers and other health problems. So, those folks that may post on social media or talk about avoiding things like Roundup and Dursban and all of this stuff, pay attention, because the exposure to these chemicals needs to be limited, and it's not being limited by our regulatory agency. So we have to do it ourselves. And if for any reason, I'm going to mention detoxification to you next, but if for any reason your body is not detoxing at its best, that stuff is accumulating in your body. Detoxifying on a regular basis happens naturally within our body when it is functioning its best. It's an old term I'm going to throw out here. It's called the emunctories. Thank you, Dr. Thomas Cruzel, for teaching me this. And when your body is in a healthful state, it can emunct, or it can naturally process these toxins out of your body. To do a heavy duty detox when your pathways are not open can create more illness than not. So some of the things that you can do that you have control over, I've already mentioned, I'll mention them again. Switch to organic foods. Use all natural beauty and health products. Switch from chemical cleaning products to natural solutions and plant-based cleaners. To help with your indoor air pollution, get a really good air filter or add air purifying plants to your home or your office, or both. Water, drink clean water, and stay hydrated. This helps your body detoxify. Think about what's in your mouth, your dental fillings, things like that. Using all natural laundry soap that's free of the petrochemical fragrances. Like, don't use things that have been filled full of formaldehyde to keep the scent there. Essential oils work great if you need scents around you. And think about choosing environmentally friendly building materials like paints, wood sidings, furniture, carpet. Pay attention to that. Now, I mentioned detoxifying. Your body has built-in detoxification. It's part of it being self-healing. But in order for it to detoxify properly, it needs to be at a certain level of health. If you, it uses things like the liver, kidneys, intestines, lungs, lymph, skin. There's also secondary organs of elimination, like, the stomach and the spleen and things like that. Our body likes to use our primary routes of detoxification, but we have to think about, if you force detoxification because you take all these products and maybe you do IV detox, like all this stuff, if your organs and your pathways of elimination are not open and flowing, you can create more illness in your body. So detoxification, we as a vitalist, I and my colleagues are always encouraging people to get their body into a healthful enough state that their body will naturally detox. And we do things like fasting, and there's all different kinds of fasts. So I like folks to do a 7 to 10 day water fast. This is not for people who are pregnant nursing or with type 1 diabetes, without being under direct supervision of a provider. But most folks who, other than that category of people, can do a twice a year, 7 to 10 day water fast. You can do a 1 day, 24-hour water fast each week. You can do intermittent fasting. There's all different kinds of ways, but when you fast, you give your body a break. You allow it to turn its energy and attention inward to doing some really good detoxification for yourself. So, this is the power of preventative health, right? These are the foundational practices for effective preventative health. And it is how you can switch from being reactive to, oh my gosh, I'm sick and I have a disease and a diagnosis, and now how do I get healthy, to how do I build health and maintain health every day for the rest of my life. All of these areas that I just went over. It is much more cost effective. You'll spend money as you go, right? Organic food costs a little bit more, and working with a few different healthcare providers that your insurance might not cover costs a little bit more, and uh, taking time to address your body's ability to move and exercise and to sleep. It takes time away from some other things that, it might cost you a little bit of money because you're not working as many hours. I don't know, but I can tell you this: folks who live a life starting at whatever age, who live a life that is health promoting, so they end the day healthier every single day, they end it healthier than they began. Those folks long term spend less money on their illness because they're not ill. A lot less money. I've been reading about these health insurance companies who have denied claims of so many people. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people who have wiped out their life savings, had to remortgage their houses to deal with treatments for chronic illness, that had they heard someone like me early enough, right? Soon enough, before they got so sick that they needed to do something to prevent their body from dying, right? They could have saved so much money. And so really hear me when I say that it might cost a little bit more day to day right now as you make these changes, but long term, you're going to save a lot of money because you're not going to have to be dealing with these chronic illnesses. There's a lot of misconceptions about preventative health, and there's also a lot of good sound conceptions about preventative health. I've tried to give you the most important pieces and parts today. I know I didn't go into depth in any one of them, but I have however long I'm going to do Vital Wisdom, which I hope is for the years to come, that I can really dive into those and spend a good hour or so in each of those topics. I'll tell you, when you know that you're making choices every day that build your health, that help you end your day in a more healthful state than you began it, the direct and immediate benefit on your mental and emotional well-being is immediately noticeable. You know you're doing good things for yourself. On the flip side, don't beat yourself up if you have a day where you don't do that. It's not worth the stress of beating yourself up. Just do better tomorrow. I'm so honored that you could join me. I don't want to take the time today to do a case, or I'm going to talk to you next time about the gentleman who had eczema all over his body. I really felt it was important today to go through all those foundations, and I've spent more than an hour with you already. So next time we'll talk about the eczema case. We're also going to talk about the signs of the vis, or the signs of the vitality of a human being in daily health, and how can you track it? How do you know you're getting more vital? How do you know when you're not as vital as you should be? We're going to talk about that. It'll be a good episode and give me time to really talk to you about this eczema case. And one of the things that I hope for all of you is that you can find the time and the resources within you to take stock of where you're at and make a plan to start making some changes, one small little step at a time, and that you become more healthful every day. I'll see you next week. Hope you have a great week. And thanks again for joining me. Please tell your friends, family, and the people you care about my podcast. And I'll see you when I see you.